The world is facing an ever-growing refugee crisis, certainly made worse by wars, conflict, and climate change. The numbers are staggering. 1 out of 69 people worldwide have been forcibly displaced. That's 120 million people. To raise awareness about the situation of refugees across the globe, the United Nations has designated June 20th each year as World Refugee Day.
Every day, in every corner of the world, lives unfold. Some in comfort, others in crisis.
120 million people, 1.5% of the world's population, have been uprooted from their homes.
We all dream of the same thing: jobs, healthcare, a home, peace.
The United Nations is using this day to remind the world that behind each number are countless stories of real people whose lives have been shattered.
Let's be very clear. The civilians are the ones that have no responsibility, no fault of their own in this conflict, and yet, as so often happens, they are the ones paying the highest price.
Since April 2023, conflict in Sudan between the army and the Rapid Support Forces paramilitary has caused the number of refugees there to surpass 10 million. With persistent fighting in the northeastern African country, over 2 million have fled to countries like Chad, South Sudan, and Egypt. Data from the UN shows that deadly clashes in Sudan have claimed more than 15,500 lives so far and have left millions of Sudanese at imminent risk of famine.
So you have a multiplicity of different crises, new ones. Look at the last couple of years: Ukraine, Gaza, Sudan, that add themselves to the existing list, and none of them is resolved.
Most recently, Israel's bombardment of the Gaza Strip has had a devastating toll on the Palestinian population. UNRWA, the UN Agency for Palestinian Refugees, estimates that from October to December, up to 1.7 million people, more than 75% of the population, have been displaced within the Gaza Strip, with many having been forced to flee multiple times. The head of a United Nations Commission of Inquiry claiming this week that the Israeli military is carrying out the extermination of Palestinians.
But we conclude that Israeli authorities are responsible for war crimes, crimes against humanity, and violations of international humanitarian and human rights law.
Almost the entire population of Rafah fled after Israel issued evacuation orders about 3 weeks ago and began military operations. Large numbers moved back to Khan Yunis in Gaza, but limited amounts of food are getting in because of the closure of the Rafah border crossing from Egypt, which had been a main conduit for aid deliveries.
This crisis has grown very, very quickly into something which is unprecedented in scale, huge in damage, and the aftermath of this is going to be enormous, and it's going to be very, very difficult to tackle.
Meanwhile, the war in Ukraine, which started in 2022, led to the fastest growing refugee crisis since World War II. Nearly 6.5 million refugees from Ukraine have been recorded globally as of February this year.
I've been naming this, calling this the inability of the world to make peace. And this is happening in so many other places, in Eastern Congo, in Myanmar, to an extent in Afghanistan. Lengthy conflicts like Syria that may cause less displacement and less direct victims right now are still unresolved, preventing people from going back.
8.2 million Afghan refugees are being hosted in neighboring countries. In Syria, 14 million have been displaced. Another 4.5 million people are internally displaced in Yemen, and 7.7 million have fled to escape the violence in Venezuela.
But the best solution for refugees is to go back to their homes when they can. For that, they need peace, peace that continue to elude them and all of us.